Hello everyone, welcome back to another video where I will be giving a brief review on the original Diablo as it was released by Blizzard in 1997. I will not be covering Hellfire as part of this review, as my plan is to cover that in another video. Set in the mythical Kingdom of Khanduras, in the realm of the living, the player assumes control of a lone hero, seeking to rid the world of Diablo, the Lord of Terror. Under the town of Tristram, the player travels through 16 randomly generated dungeon levels before entering Hell to fight Diablo. Diablo is an action-oriented role-playing video game, one of the first of its kind. The player moves and interacts with the environment largely with a mouse. Other actions, such as casting spells, are triggered by keyboard inputs. Throughout the game, the player is able to gain items, learn spells, battle opponents, and interact with non-player characters. The dungeon levels are randomly generated, with themes specific to each level. For example, the catacombs contain long corridors and confined rooms, whilst the caverns are more non-linear. The players are assigned a random number of quests from various tiers. These objectives are optional, but frequently provide strong, unique items as prizes, allowing them to level up their character and/or reveal more of the past. To finish the game, we must complete the final 2 quests. It is here where I would like to mention the incredible atmosphere that the game conveys. Do the graphics hold up to today's standards? Absolutely not, yet the designs of the dungeons and the slower gameplay add an element of horror that successors have never been able to properly recapture. This is not a game where you easily steamroll enemies without considering the appropriate tactics before engaging. With each hit that you take from the enemy, you become aware that death's door could open at any moment if you do not prepare with the adequate potions and gear. The amazing compositions by Matt Uelmen also help to add to the dread and terror one feels as they dare to explore deeper below the village of Tristram. In fact, I would say that the soundtrack for this game plays the biggest role in the game's unique feel. I found a lot of the compositions to borrow off genres of noise rock, avant-garde, experimentalism, in a way that a lot of game soundtracks tend to shy away from, and instead follow a more orchestral musical style. It is an absolute masterpiece, and it is one of the few drives for me to eventually return to this game in the future, if only to experience that feeling of butterflies in the stomach when entering the caves for the first time. The distant cries of a baby. And the moaning of a goat. The heavy guitar distortion. You really feel as though you are traveling through the bowels of hell and suffering. Stray too far, and you will be engulfed in the oppressive evil that surrounds you at every turn. Diablo has 3 character classes: Warrior, Rogue, and Sorcerer. Each class is allocated a particular level of attributes, as well as a unique skill. In contrast to later titles in the Diablo series, each class can use practically all of the same equipment and spells. However, the limitations of each class's attributes reward play that makes the best use of them. For example, the warrior's low maximum level of magic prevents him from learning the higher levels of powerful spells like the sorcerer. Instead, the warrior is best suited to melee with a faster weapon swing and a critical strike for bonus damage. Let's go over the sorcerer first, as this was the first class I played all the way through the game with. The spellcaster is the physically weakest of the 3 classes, but they can learn the most spells at the highest levels. The sorcerer's main character trait is magic. The sorcerer's distinctive starting skill is the ability to recharge spell staves at the expense of reducing the maximum number of spell charges that the staff can carry. I found that while challenging to play with while starting out, the class became quite OP as I began to level up. The Mana Shield spell becomes a true lifesaver, as it essentially allows you to have 2 health pools at once, giving you the needed time to inflict a series of deadly spells, such as Fireball and Firewall, at your opponents, killing multiple enemies with one cast. Overall, I had a lot of fun with this class, but it was also the easiest experience playing the game compared with the other 2. Next, let's go over the Rogue, an expert with ranged weaponry. While not as powerful as the warrior, the rogue is highly good at hitting adversaries from afar with the bow. The rogue, a jack-of-all-trades character, has higher magic than the warrior, allowing her to employ spells more effectively, and she outperforms the sorcerer in melee combat. The rogue's main character trait is dexterity. The rogue's distinctive starting skill is the ability to disable traps. Overall, I found this class to perform best during the mid-game, while in the catacombs and the caves. Later on, the difficulty picked up a bit, and I had to do a lot of kiting to get my way through the campaign. This was also an enjoyable class to play, though it lacked the overall flashiness of the sorcerer. And lastly, let's quickly take a look at the warrior. It is the most physically capable of the 3 classes. The warrior is a close-quarters fighter who can typically withstand the most physical punishment. The warrior's key character trait is strength. The warrior begins with the ability to repair items in his possession at the expense of overall durability. While I found the warrior to be quite powerful at lower levels, I found that as the levels grew, it became more and more of a health potion spamming class, requiring multiple trips to the surface to restock on potions for each level descended. This became quite tedious towards the end. While normally I love playing around with melee characters, I found the gameplay of the warrior to be quite a slog, and I was looking forward to being done with my Diablo playthrough. To summarize the 3 classes, Diablo follows a rock-paper-scissors formula. Later titles and Diablo clones would greatly expand on character classes and build variety, introducing various trait trees, mastery progression systems, and so on. But here, all you have to mess around with is gear and your attribute points. While new and intuitive at the time, it can be looked at in hindsight as simple, with less replay value. While this may be seen as a negative, I also enjoyed the smaller scope that Diablo has to offer. Not every gamer has hundreds of hours to explore every single build path the game has available for them. So while simplicity may be its drawback, there is the argument to be made that it is also a strength. This also brings me back to one of the biggest gripes about the game. The amount of backtracking you have to do in this game is about half or more of the gameplay, not to mention that your character walks very slowly through Tristram, taking up hours of wasted gameplay. Now obviously this game is a product of its time, and this kind of tedium was expected for the era. But it just has not aged particularly well. In Hellfire, they would fix the walking speed, but I am reviewing the game in its original release. Diablo's setting encompasses the mortal realm, the high heavens, and the burning hells. After ages of strife between angels and demons, the advent of man spurred the three lords of hell, including Diablo, to seek triumph by influence, resulting in their exile to the mortal realm. They fostered chaos, suspicion, and hatred among humanity, until the Horadrim, a group of magi, trapped them in the enchanted crystals known as Soul Stones. Diablo's Soul Stone was buried deep underground, and a monastery was built over it. Generations passed, and the monastery's purpose was forgotten. A little hamlet called Tristram grew up near to the monastery's remains. When King Leoric restored the monastery as a cathedral, Diablo tricked its archbishop, Lazarus, into destroying his Soul Stone prison. Diablo momentarily possessed the king, sending out his knights and priests to combat peaceful kingdoms, before possessing the king's son, Prince Albrecht, and filling the tunnels and catacombs beneath the cathedral with horrors from Albrecht's dreams. Tristram became a place of fear and horror, with individuals abducted at night. With no monarch, law, or army to protect them, many of the villagers fled. The lore is an aspect of the game that still holds up to this day. Deep in the dungeons, you come across these book stands that frequently dump narrated exposition and backstory on you, adding to the amazing atmosphere that this game has to offer.
For they are the last legacy of the Horadrim. There is a war that rages on even now, beyond the fields that we know, between the utopian kingdoms of the high heavens and the chaotic pits of the burning hells. This war is known as the Great Conflict, and it has raged and burned longer than any of the stars in the sky. Neither side ever gains sway for long, as the forces of light and darkness constantly vie for control over all creation.
The story begins with a lone hero who answers a call to investigate the evil that afflicts the cathedral. As we descend through the dungeon's levels, we come across swarms of demons, corrupted creatures, and the unraveling story of the town's journey into madness. The deeper we go, the more it becomes evident that the source of this evil is none other than Diablo, the Lord of Terror, one of the 7 evils who once ruled hell. It's a battle not only for Tristram, but for the very soul of humanity. With each swing of the sword and incantation of a spell, we battle through the forces of darkness, hoping to confront Diablo and end his reign of terror. The stakes couldn't be higher, as the fate of the world is on the line. Diablo 1 is more than just a game. It's a voyage into the heart of evil, a test of fortitude, and a legacy that has influenced the action RP genre. It reminds us that sometimes the greatest wars are fought not with armies, but with a single hero's determination. Overall, I had an enjoyable experience with this game. It is certainly a pioneer of the times, with many gameplay experiences that have been improved upon in later titles, but nevertheless, a great game. One of the things I loved was that you feel you can enjoy what the game has to offer without overstaying your time. That's why I managed to complete 3 whole playthroughs for each of the classes. Its atmosphere and feeling of dread permeates through the whole game, which I haven't seen repeated in any other title similar to this genre, and is the main reason to go back and play this title, whether you never touched the Diablo series or you are a seasoned Diablo veteran. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll see you in the next one.